Good afternoon, everyone. This is Atmospheric Alex here, back with another severe weather outlook and discussion. We're going to be discussing potentially a major derecho that could sweep across the state of North Dakota today. And also, we're going to go over maybe a strong tornado risk for portions of Manitoba up there in Canada. Towards the end of the video, we're also going to be going over our space weather predictions. We have a pretty strong solar storm heading its way towards Earth right now, and that could cause a pretty crazy northern lights display tonight if everything works out correctly. We're going to start off this video though with our SPC convective outlook. And by the way, as you can tell, this is kind of a little bit of a new setup I'm testing out, doing videos on my laptop now because the computer has been some issues, but we're talking about an enhanced risk for severe weather, portions of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana here, and primarily this risk is going to be driven by very damaging winds, actually destructive winds. We're talking about a 30% SIG 2 risk of winds. That means we're expecting winds of over 90 miles per hour, actually a lot more than 90 miles an hour today. We're seeing some large hail threat across that area too. And then for our tornado risk, we do have a 2% up there, but look at down here. And I know you all dealt with tornadoes yesterday, so I have to mention this. Portions of Missouri and Arkansas down here, we do have a 5% chance of a tornado, so you all do need to stay pretty weather aware today as you got hit by one or even two yesterday. Now remember how I said that Canada was going to be under the gun as well, where this is the Environment Canada's Storm Prediction Center, basically, the thunderstorm outlook, and we are talking about an extreme risk for severe weather. This is pretty much, I mean, if you think about how the SPC works in the US, it's almost like a high risk equivalent, though they're a little bit more lenient with their risks. They don't see as much severe weather as we do, but still, this is the highest risk of severe weather they have issued in 8 years. So this is a big deal here for Dauphin, Manitoba there, Brandon, Manitoba. We're talking about a lot of severe weather. We're talking about very significant winds, significant hail, lots of rain, and strong tornadoes are going to be expected. Maybe even an intense to violent tornado cannot be ruled out in that environment. Now, as we take a look at tomorrow's severe weather outlook, we're talking about a slight risk here for portions of Colorado, Nebraska, and even Wyoming. And, this area tends to have some very photogenic events, or severe weather out there is a bit different. And we have a 2% tornado risk. If I was a storm chaser in that area, I would chase tomorrow, because you never know. Tornadoes out there are generally very high based, very photogenic, and very low precipitation. So you could get some crazy stuff tomorrow. And then wind, we definitely have some of that as well. Hail, we have large hail, so really good, really beautiful looking supercells are expected. Our day 3 risk, we have yet again an enhanced risk here for portions of North Dakota, South Dakota. We could be talking about some pretty significant severe weather that day. But as we go ahead and take a look at day 4, I do think that this could be a pretty big outbreak type day. We could be talking about a significant tornado outbreak, maybe intense, maybe even a violent tornado possible. But look at that, a large enhanced risk for portions of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. This is pretty far out in time, so you do need to take this very seriously. And according to that, as we go into day 5, I don't know why I had 2 tabs open there. We do have a slight risk, a pretty large one, across, say, the Chicago area and all surrounding regions. Now, what could the future radar possibly look like later today? We're going to take a look at Aguacero here. Works a little bit better on my laptop, as you can see, so we're able to use it. I'm actually going to zoom out a bit. That goes really far north. But we're going to start to see some pretty good supercell development here across portions of Manitoba up there, and just right next to it as well. That is where we could begin seeing our strong tornado risk develop around 4 to 6 p.m. this evening. And look at this right down here. We have what looks like a segment of damaging winds beginning to develop across eastern Montana. This is going to be our big time derecho threat becoming underway by the time we head into this evening. As we continue to go through time, this really begins to bow out, and we have got some really aggressive wind barbs down here. Now, I don't usually point this out. We've got a yellow wind barb that has winds closing in on 100 miles an hour. We're going to look at our wind gust forecast in a minute on how significant that could be. And again, you have your severe weather up there in Manitoba, but it's really going to be shifting down into North Dakota. That is a really dangerous dangerous line, dangerous bow echo of severe storms. And it's so significant that your winds out in front kind of surge everything forward a bit. And you're going to be talking about an outflow boundary, of 70 to 80 mile an hour winds with little to no rain. So that is a little bit insane there. You can see it absolutely just blazing across North Dakota, going into Minnesota there later on into the night. So very significant destructive wind event is underway. Now, as we go ahead and take a look at our HRRR sub-hourly run here in terms of our wind gust forecast for later on this evening, we can already see, look at that, Miles City, 93 miles an hour. Right when these storms form, they're going to be producing 90 to 100 mile an hour winds right out the gate. And this will continue to get much worse. Look at through eastern Montana, 104 miles an hour. Look at this, 106 up there. And this really just blows on through, gets even more intense through time. And oh my goodness, look at that. I've not seen a wind plot like that in a long time. 140 mile an hour wind plot right there. Oh my gosh, yeah, that is uptrended substantially, and you could see your Boeing segment right there. You're probably going to have tornadoes along this. I'm not sure where in the world our more significant tornado risk is for today, but if you have Boeing segments like that and bookend vortexes, things could get very bad very fast. But let's continue through time. This is data I have not seen. Oh, wow, 142. So we're talking about a derecho with winds between 110 to maybe even 130 miles per hour later on this evening across a widespread area, really going into North Dakota. It's been, oh, geez, 150. Okay. I have not seen anything like this in a long time. I really hope that the HRRR is going out to lunch because this is just purely unacceptable. This would be a historic record-breaking derecho. Oh man. Yeah, I'm kind of losing my speech here. Again, this is upper echelon stuff that you don't usually see, but look at that wind and look at how far back that goes. This isn't just going to be a 10-minute burst of over 100 mile an hour winds. This could last for a good half hour, maybe even more in some locations. This is basically going to be like an inland hurricane later on. This is very serious. We're going to have a moderate risk likely out later on this afternoon about this. Fairly large moderate possibly, and it goes on for maybe an hour or two, and so this is, wow. Just please stay as weather aware as you possibly can, and just be aware of your plans this evening. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our dew points for later on. You can see we have dews in the 60s here across North Dakota, into your 70s across Manitoba, and again, that's where your strong to intense tornadoes will be possible. But that wind risk, pretty much alarming there. I've not seen that. You could see, look at how much dry air this actually brings down. You can see it just eating away at the environment. That's crazy to see. But yeah, definitely sufficient dew points for severe weather if that's what we're looking for here. What about our storm energy? We have quite a lot of that as well up here in Manitoba, approaching 5,000 Cape. That is well over enough storm energy for significant severe weather. Across North Dakota, between 3,000 to 4,000 units. When that derecho moves through, you can see our storm energy holds pretty strong going into the late evening to overnight hours, and that's why we have such a prolonged, prolific, destructive wind risk there. But again, up here, you see some boundaries that form as well. If you have a storm that rides along that, your tornado threat will definitely increase. How about your storm relative helicity? Again, it's really going to be up there in Manitoba that looks the most significant. You see, there is definitely some values along your derecho later that could definitely contribute to a tornado risk. Could even a strong tornado. Won't matter with your wind. That does continue all the way up there as well. I think I was out of frame a bit. Yeah, you could see, especially up here, if you get a storm in that environment, holy smokes, that's definitely ripe for an intense to violent tornado possibly. And now flopping back over to aguacero weather for tomorrow, you can see we do have some decent looking supercells developing near Goodland, Kansas tomorrow evening. A lot of supercells and storms forming also in Colorado. Yeah, take a look at all those storms congealing into a line in South Dakota. that, believe it or not, that looks like another significant wind event, but I mean, we'll get there when we get there, right? You can see throughout the night, we do continue to have very strong winds across the board, so we're going to have to kind of watch out for tomorrow as well, it looks like, but we don't have a lot of time in this video to go over parameters, so we're going to quickly move over to Wednesday, because like I said, space weather stuff to cover at the end, and I don't want to bore you all. Now, moving into Tuesday's event, and honestly, I just took a quick look, it looks pretty widespread here. Lots of storms forming up there in Manitoba, Canada. Again, you're going to be under the gun once again. North Dakota again, South Dakota again, portions of Nebraska again. Lots of storms firing up down there, lots of storms up there as well. You can clearly see why we have our enhanced risk for severe weather here, as that is a very big line of storms with definitely some damaging, maybe considerably damaging winds, large hail, and definitely a tornado risk as well with that. That continues pushing through into Minnesota in the overnight hours. We have maybe another round down there, but just know it's going to be a widespread day for sure. And now we're going to go ahead and take a good look at Wednesday on some of our lower resolution models. It's further out in time. As we go ahead and bounce into Wednesday here, you could see what looks to be a very good synoptic setup for severe weather. You have a low pressure system right here, all your warm, unstable air feeding in like that. You have your cold or cooler air back there. So certainly is going to be a good look wind shear wise for severe weather. And then also thermodynamically as well with your storm energy, you'll have a lot of it. And storms do explode as we head into Wednesday evening, and continuing through time, that will continue throughout the night. If we see any semi-discrete, fully discrete supercells, intense tornadoes will be possible on Wednesday. Could we even see a violent tornado? I'm definitely not going to rule it out in that kind of environment, so we'll all have to stay very weather aware out there, and that is basically all I have to say for our severe weather segment. And now we're going to go ahead and take a good look at the sun, because space weather has been quite active lately. We're going to have a good look here at active region 4461. This sunspot cluster didn't look too crazy at first, but you're going to see in just a moment here producing a decent flare here as we go through time. Right there, whoosh, we have a big solar storm that comes off of the sun, and notice how that flare didn't really look all that exciting. I mean, it was only an M class, a low M class, and as we go ahead and take a look at our flare chart here, you're going to clearly see that we have been having some agitation, but right there was our main solar flare when you saw all that plasma coming right off, whooshing off of the sun. It was only an M1.8 class flare. And you may be thinking, Alex, how is this even possible? An M1 class flare, that shouldn't do hardly anything at all. This is a good reminder to you all that flare intensity does not equal solar storm intensity, right? They are completely separated from each other. They don't really have any correlation. But in this instance, we had somewhat of a filament, a snaky, dense region of material on the sun. And when this flare happened, it was able to get pushed off in a way. It kind of activated it in a way. So that produced a massive solar storm, believe it or not. And we could take a better look at this solar storm here on coronagraph imagery. You could see we did have something the other day, but this right here, we have a full halo CME right there. Let me rewind it a bit. You can see the entire halo visible here, which means this is an Earth-directed solar storm, or at least a partially Earth-directed solar storm right there. Pretty dense, pretty fast-moving as well. The bulk of it did go off to the southwest, but still, that was a very big eruption indeed. And as expected, we have had a few models running for this solar storm here. You can see it kind of coming off the sun there and going off to the south of Earth, but it definitely still clips Earth a little bit right here as we go into the overnight hours of tonight. I do think this timing is a little bit late right here. I don't think it'll be tomorrow morning. I do think it'll be tonight, the impact there. But if this winds up being a little further north than forecasted, this could be a pretty big event, and Enlil isn't really showing that too much. However, a model that is showing it is our NASA model. Boom, right there. A very fast-moving, dense coronal mass ejection, and a very good chunk of it actually hits Earth right there as we go into the overnight hours of tonight. Very dense, very fast portion of our solar storm. So this really doesn't look like a glancing blow, more just like a partial impact, if you will. But I still do expect some pretty good geomagnetic storming as we go into tonight. Probably a G2 to a G3 level storm. Depending on how far north this thing actually went, we could maybe see a G4, but that is really not a forecast at this current point in time. But that is definitely what I have to say about that. Now, there is one big factor that could prevent things from happening, and it's your BZ, your magnetic orientation. Our last solar storm did not have a good BZ. It was actually pointed northward the whole entire time, and that is why we did not see the northern lights hardly anywhere at all. But if we see a setup like this where your BZ is tilted off to the south, you could see valleys near -10 there, near -10 there. You're going to be talking about sufficient charging in the magnetosphere, which will allow northern lights to brighten and push further off to the south. So, places down deeper in the mid latitudes could see the northern lights a lot easier. And another factor to consider is your substorming here. So your magnetometer data, you can see it right here. Well, when we have these big dips right here, this is known as charging in your magnetosphere when you see that. And suddenly when you see the spike upwards, that indicates a large energy release that can cause your northern lights to basically explode in a way, right? It rapidly brightens up and it pushes further south. Your aurora oval pushes further south. And especially right here, you could see a lot of activity happened, and we did have northern lights getting pretty far off to the south. I believe I actually saw them this night. I don't remember when this was. This was over like a year ago, but yeah. That is exactly what I'm talking about. You see stuff like that on your magnetometer data? Well, you should probably get outside and check. But it's not always that easy to check this kind of stuff because it's not always visible to the naked eye. This was a screenshot I took from the Boston and Maine Mount Katahdin Aurora camera last year, and there's a lot of different things going on here. You see your green aurora arc right here. It's basically where your pillars will kind of jump out of in a way, and you can see it right above it. We have some proton aurora. You don't really need to know all this at this current point in time. You see your pillars over there. And one thing I want to really note about this is if you can see down here, 20-second exposure. So your northern lights will likely not be visible by the naked eye. You'll probably have to get your phone out, set your camera settings to 3 to 5 second exposure. You hit the moon icon on the side and you can kind of adjust things in night mode. Please do that. Again, you may not see these with the naked eye unless you're in the high latitudes. And with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I do apologize that things seemed a little bit sloppy. This is a new setup I'm having to use. And another thing, gathering space weather data is a bit time consuming, believe it or not. It's a little bit difficult to bring up some of these graphics, unfortunately, but luckily I still got the video out in time, again, before that significant derecho hits, so that's the good news there. If you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community, share this video with friends, family on social media, maybe even leave a comment if you wish as well. That said, have a wonderful night, everyone. Be sure to maybe try and look for the northern lights tonight. There's going to be a lot of cloud cover across the central U.S., unfortunately, so that might be a big problem. But other than that, stay very weather aware out there from the derecho, and I will see you back here very soon.